The coffee splashed across his pristine white shirt in slow motion, the buttery croissant tumbling to the floor as his eyes, those impossibly blue eyes, widened in shock. That's when I recognized him. The man whose breakfast I'd just destroyed wasn't a random annoying stranger. He was Ethan Blackwood, the CEO who would be interviewing me in exactly 15 minutes. If you've ever had one of those moments where your entire future flashes before your eyes, stick around to find out how I managed to turn the worst first impression into the most unexpected journey of my life. And if you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of life's beautiful disasters. I'd been running late that morning, something that rarely happened to me. I prided myself on punctuality, on preparedness, on having my life together. But that day, everything had gone wrong. My alarm hadn't gone off, my shower had run cold after 2 minutes, and my carefully selected interview outfit had a mysterious stain that hadn't been there the night before. By the time I rushed into the coffee shop 3 blocks from Blackwood Enterprises, I was a frazzled mess with exactly 22 minutes to caffeinate before the most important interview of my career. The line moved at a glacial pace. Each person ahead of me seemed to order the most complicated drink possible, with substitutions and specifications that made the barista's eyes glaze over. When I finally reached the counter, I ordered a simple black coffee, no room for cream. Simple. Efficient. Just like the image I wanted to project in my interview. That's when I noticed him. The man in the tailored suit who had been standing at the pickup counter for what seemed like an eternity, checking his watch every 30 seconds and sighing loudly enough for everyone to hear. Each time the barista called out a name that wasn't his, he'd roll his eyes dramatically. When a young barista accidentally knocked over an empty cup, he muttered something that made her cheeks flush with embarrassment. Venti triple shot caramel macchiato with almond milk for Ethan, the barista finally called out. The man, Ethan, stepped forward with an exaggerated sigh of relief. Finally, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Some of us have actual jobs to get to. The barista's smile faltered, and something in me snapped. I'd worked in customer service through college. I knew what it was like to be on the receiving end of that kind of entitlement. And with the stress of my impending interview already fraying my nerves, I couldn't stop myself. You know, I said, stepping toward him, they're doing their best. A little patience wouldn't kill you. He turned to me with raised eyebrows, as if shocked that someone would dare speak to him. Excuse me? The world doesn't revolve around your schedule, I continued, emboldened by the approving glances from other customers. These people are working hard, and they deserve basic respect. His lips pressed into a thin line. I don't believe I asked for your opinion on how I should conduct myself. And that barista didn't ask to be treated like she's beneath you, I shot back. What happened next occurred in a blur. He turned abruptly, his elbow catching my arm just as I was lifting my coffee. The cup tilted, its hot contents splashing across his crisp white shirt and expensive tie. The croissant he'd been holding tumbled from his hand, landing butter side down on the polished floor. For a moment, the entire coffee shop went silent. His face registered shock, then anger, then something unreadable. I stood frozen, mortified by what had happened despite my anger. I'm so sorry, I stammered, grabbing napkins from a nearby dispenser. Let me help. Don't, he said, his voice cold as he stepped back. You've done quite enough. He turned and walked out of the coffee shop without another word, leaving his ruined breakfast behind. The tension in the air dissipated, replaced by murmurs and a few nervous laughs. The barista he'd been rude to gave me a small smile of gratitude, but all I could feel was a sinking sensation in my stomach. I'd let my emotions get the better of me, something I'd promised myself I wouldn't do anymore. I glanced at my watch. 12 minutes until my interview. I grabbed a fresh coffee, apologized to the staff for the commotion, and hurried out, trying to push the incident from my mind. I needed to focus. This interview at Blackwood Enterprises was my chance to finally break into the field I'd been working toward for years. Their marketing department was legendary, and the position of junior creative strategist had attracted hundreds of applicants. The fact that I'd made it to the final round of interviews still felt surreal. The Blackwood building loomed ahead, all glass and steel reaching toward the sky. I took a deep breath, straightened my slightly wrinkled blazer, and walked through the revolving doors with as much confidence as I could muster. The receptionist directed me to the 32nd floor, where I was greeted by a friendly HR representative named Melissa. "Mr. Blackwood will be conducting your final interview personally," she informed me with a smile. "He likes to meet all potential team members, especially for the creative department." I nodded, trying to hide my surprise. I'd expected to meet with the marketing director, not the CEO himself. This was both terrifying and exciting, a chance to impress the person at the very top. Melissa led me to a sleek conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "He'll be with you shortly," she said, closing the door behind her. I used the time to collect myself, reviewing my portfolio one last time and rehearsing answers to potential questions. When the door finally opened, I stood up with a practiced smile, ready to make my best impression. The smile froze on my face. Standing in the doorway, now wearing a fresh shirt and tie but still bearing a faint coffee stain on his sleeve, was the man from the coffee shop. Ethan Blackwood. The CEO of Blackwood Enterprises. The man whose breakfast I had ruined less than 20 minutes ago. His eyes widened in recognition, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. I waited for him to turn around, to call security, to laugh in my face. Instead, he closed the door behind him and took a seat across from me. "Well," he said, his voice carefully neutral, "this is unexpected." I swallowed hard. "Mr. Blackwood, I want to apologize for what happened at the coffee shop. I had no idea who you were, but that's no excuse for." He held up a hand to stop me. "Let's set that aside for the moment. You're here for an interview, and I'm here to determine if you're the right fit for Blackwood Enterprises." He opened a folder with my resume inside. Maya Chen. Impressive credentials. Top of your class at NYU. Internship at Wallace & Company. Freelance work that's garnered industry attention. He looked up at me. "Tell me why you want to work here." I took a deep breath, pushing down the panic that threatened to overwhelm me. This was my chance, possibly my only chance. I couldn't blow it. Blackwood Enterprises has revolutionized how brands connect with consumers, I began, finding my voice. While other agencies focus on fleeting trends, you build campaigns with emotional resonance that stand the test of time. The Starlight Foundation campaign last year didn't just raise awareness, it created a movement. That's the kind of work I want to be part of. Something shifted in his expression, surprise, perhaps, or curiosity. The interview continued, with him asking increasingly challenging questions about my creative process, my approach to problem solving, my ability to work under pressure. I answered each one thoughtfully, drawing on my experiences and education, trying to show him who I was beyond the coffee shop incident. "You mentioned the Starlight campaign," he said after about 20 minutes. "What would you have done differently?" It was a trap, I realized. A test to see if I would criticize their most successful campaign just to appear insightful. I considered my answer carefully. I wouldn't change the core concept, it was brilliant, I said honestly. But I would have expanded the social media integration earlier in the campaign. The user-generated content became your most powerful asset, but it didn't gain momentum until the third week. Starting with a stronger call to action for personal stories could have amplified the impact from day one. He leaned back in his chair, studying me with those intense blue eyes. "Most candidates praise everything we do without offering real insights," he said. "They're afraid to suggest improvements." "I'm not here to tell you what you already know," I replied, surprising myself with my boldness. "I'm here because I believe I can contribute something valuable." A hint of a smile touched his lips. "Even if that contribution includes spilling coffee on the CEO?" My cheeks burned. "Especially then." I stand by what I said about treating service workers with respect, but I regret how the situation escalated. You stood up for someone you felt was being mistreated, he said, his tone unreadable. That takes courage. Or poor impulse control, I admitted. To my surprise, he laughed, a genuine laugh that transformed his face. Perhaps a bit of both. He closed my file and stood up. Thank you for your time, Ms. Chen. Melissa will be in touch regarding our decision. I rose on slightly shaky legs, unsure what to make of the interview. Had I redeemed myself, or had he simply gone through the motions before rejecting my application? I couldn't tell. Mr. Blackwood, I said as he reached for the door handle. Regardless of your decision, I truly am sorry about your shirt. And your croissant. He paused, looking back at me with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. The shirt was replaceable. The croissant, however, was from Madeline's bakery. Best in the city. That's a loss I'll have to live with. With that enigmatic statement, he left. I exhaled slowly, gathering my portfolio with trembling hands. Whatever happened next, at least I'd faced the situation head-on. I'd been authentic, for better or worse. 3 days passed with no word from Blackwood Enterprises. I alternated between hope and despair, replaying the interview in my mind and analyzing every word, every expression. By the 4th day, I'd convinced myself that I needed to start applying for other positions. The coffee shop incident had cost me my dream job. Then my phone rang with an unknown number. Maya Chen, a familiar male voice said when I answered. Yes, this is she. This is Ethan Blackwood. I'm calling about your interview. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it through the phone. Yes, Mr. Blackwood? I'd like to offer you the position, he said, with one condition. I held my breath. What condition? You bring me a replacement croissant from Madeline's bakery on your first day. For a moment, I was speechless. Then I laughed, relief and joy bubbling up inside me. I think I can manage that. Excellent. Melissa will email you the details. He paused. And Maya? I look forward to seeing what you bring to our team, besides pastries, of course. My first day at Blackwood Enterprises arrived with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. True to my word, I stopped at Madeline's bakery on my way, purchasing not 1 but 2 croissants, just in case another accident occurred. The bakery was tiny and unassuming, but the line stretched out the door, confirming Ethan's assessment of their quality. The office was buzzing with activity when I arrived. Melissa greeted me warmly, showing me to my desk in the creative department and introducing me to my new colleagues. Everyone was friendly, but I could sense their curiosity about the new hire who had somehow impressed the notoriously demanding CEO. Around mid-morning, Melissa appeared at my desk. Mr. Blackwood would like to see you in his office, she said with an encouraging smile. I grabbed the small bakery bag and followed her to the executive floor, where Ethan's office occupied the corner with the best views of the city. He was on the phone when I entered but motioned for me to sit in one of the chairs facing his desk. I understand your concerns, he was saying to whoever was on the other end, but we need to approach this differently. The campaign needs heart, not just flash. Let me think about it and get back to you. He hung up and turned his attention to me. Maya. How's your first day going? So far, so good, I said, placing the bakery bag on his desk. As promised. He opened the bag and smiled. 2 croissants. Hedging your bets? Learning from past mistakes, I replied with a small smile of my own. He took one out and broke it in half, offering a piece to me. I didn't just ask you here for pastry delivery, he said as I accepted it. I have a situation I could use your perspective on. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. My perspective? The call I was just on, that was about the Meridian Hotel's account. They want something revolutionary for their rebranding, but everything we've presented so far has fallen flat. They're considering taking their business elsewhere. He leaned forward. You said in your interview that you value emotional resonance in campaigns. How would you approach this? I was stunned that he was asking for my input on my very first day, but I didn't want to waste the opportunity. What do you know about their target demographic? Primarily business travelers, but they're trying to expand into the luxury vacation market. I thought for a moment, taking a bite of the croissant, which was, indeed, exceptional. Business travelers don't want a hotel, they want a home away from home. And luxury vacationers don't want a hotel, they want an experience. An idea began to form in my mind. What if the campaign focused on moments? Not the rooms or the amenities, but the human moments that happen within those spaces? Ethan's eyes lit up with interest. Go on. A series showing the same spaces being used differently, a business executive FaceTiming with her kids before bed, then cut to a family building a pillow fort in the same room. A businessman rehearsing a presentation in the mirror, then cut to a bride seeing herself in her dress for the first time. Same spaces, different moments, all meaningful. He was quiet for a long moment, considering. That has potential, he finally said. It speaks to both demographics without alienating either. He made a few notes on his tablet. Draft a proper concept and have it on my desk tomorrow morning. If it holds up, you'll present it at the Meridian meeting on Friday. My jaw dropped. Friday? But I just started. Shouldn't someone more senior? It's your idea, he interrupted. You should be the one to present it. Unless you don't think you're ready. It was a challenge, and we both knew it. I'll have the concept ready tomorrow, I said with more confidence than I felt. He nodded, seemingly satisfied. Good. And Maya? That was quick thinking. Impressive for your first day. I left his office in a daze, equal parts terrified and exhilarated. I'd been at Blackwood Enterprises for less than 4 hours, and somehow I'd gone from new hire to presenting to a major client in the same week. It was an opportunity one couldn't afford to waste. The next few days were a whirlwind. I worked late into the night developing the concept, collaborating with the design team to create mock-ups, and rehearsing my presentation until I could deliver it in my sleep. By Friday morning, I was exhausted but ready. The Meridian executives arrived at 10 o'clock sharp. There were 5 of them, all in expensive suits, all wearing expressions of polite skepticism. I recognized the look, they'd seen too many flashy presentations that failed to deliver substance. Ethan introduced me simply, this is Maya Chen, our newest creative strategist. She has a fresh perspective on your rebranding that I think you'll find compelling. I took a deep breath and began. I didn't start with statistics or market research, though I had plenty to back up my concept. Instead, I started with a story about my father, a business consultant who spent half my childhood in hotels. He always called home at the same time, no matter what time zone he was in, I told them. And he always sat in the same spot, the edge of the bed, with the desk lamp on and the overhead lights off. That was our time, our connection. Years later, when I stayed in a similar hotel room, I found myself sitting in that same spot, calling him. That's when I realized, hotels aren't selling rooms. They're selling the spaces where life happens. From there, I launched into the concept, showing the mock-ups we'd created and explaining how the campaign could evolve across different platforms. As I spoke, I could see the skepticism in their eyes being replaced by interest, then excitement. When I finished, there was a moment of silence. Then the CMO of Meridian Hotels leaned forward. This is exactly what we've been looking for, she said. It's authentic, emotional, and versatile. When can you start production? The meeting continued for another hour as we discussed timelines, budgets,